Good evening and welcome to the Millcreek Township School District Committee meetings for Monday, June the 12th, 2023. First meeting this evening will be the Personnel and Policy Committee, followed by Instruction and Student Services Committee meeting, and then concluding with the Finance and Operations Committee. There will also be a Committee of the Whole meeting this evening following the committee meetings. Even though the public is now able to attend in person, we will continue to stream the meetings live on YouTube, and all meetings will be recorded for future viewing. We'll also continue to Zoom the meetings as well going forward to enhance participation in them. You can also view this evening's agendas as well as several additional informational items on our website, www.mtsd.org. In addition, please visit us and like us on our Facebook page, Millcreek Township School District. Also, I'd like to remind all speakers, core team members, and board members to speak clearly and distinctly into their microphone so you can be heard by all of our attendees this evening, whether they are here in person or viewing us on Zoom or YouTube. Before we start with our first committee meeting this evening, I'd like to remind the public that during each of the committee meetings, under the agenda item of questions from the public, if you'd like to ask a question, please identify the specific agenda item that pertains to your question or questions. Please limit those questions to those particular items on that committee's agenda this evening. Each speaker will be afforded 5 minutes per committee meeting to have their questions addressed. Each chairperson will once again review this when they reach that section of their committee agendas. The 3 or 5 minute public comments come under the visitor section of the monthly committee or Committee of the Whole meetings or regular board meetings before any action is taken by the board. First committee meeting this evening is Personnel and Policy. Mr. Dean.
Thank you, President Winchell. Item 1.01, roll call. Ms. Sitter, can you take roll, please?
Mr. Dean.
Here.
Ms. Lupacek. Here. Ms. McClintock.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item 1.02, approval of the agenda. I'd like to make a motion. We approve the agenda. Can I have a second, please?
Second.
Discussion? So I would like to make an emergency amendment to the agenda on the Personnel Board Report, June 12th, 2023. I'd like to make an amendment under J.S. Wilson, add a resignation of assistant principal effective date 6/30/2023. And also remove under McDowell Intermediate, change of status, assistant principal to environmental science teacher J.S. Wilson to MIHS. I'd like to make a motion that we amend the agenda with those two corrections.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Item
And
1.02.
Just a point of order. The reason for the amendment is because we just received that letter of resignation, so therefore it had to be put on as an emergency change.
Thank you, Attorney Senate. Now, item 1.02, I'd like to make, do we have to make a motion to approve the amended agenda at this point? Make a motion that we approve the amended agenda. Can I have a second, please?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Motion passes. Thank you. Item 2.01, Personnel and Policy Committee meeting minutes of May 8th, 2023. I'd like to make a motion that we approve 2.01. Can I have a second, please?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Item 3.01, Policy 214, Class Rank, first reading. I'd like to make a motion that we approve 3.01. Can I have a second, please?
Second.
Discussion. This is as a result of our grade change format for next year. We're going to the 10-point scale. So this is updating the class rank. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. 3.02, June 12th, 2023, Personnel Board Report. Beginning with Asbury, we have a recommendation for a J1 custodian part-time. Grandview, we have a change of status for an academic educational assistant to educational assistant office, Tracy to Grandview. J.S. Wilson, we have a resignation of an assistant principal. And we have a change of status, principal to assistant principal, McDowell to J.S. Wilson. Under McDowell Intermediate, we have a recommendation for a J1 second shift custodian. Under McDowell, we have a change of status, assistant principal to principal. Millcreek Education Center, we have a resignation of an HR coordinator. We have a recommendation for an HR coordinator, recommendation for a communications secretary, fiscal part-time. We have the 2023-2024 summer maintenance. And we have human resource secretary. And we have a change of status for personnel secretary to HR coordinator. And we have business office secretary 260 to accounts payable. I'd like to make a motion that we move forward item 3.02 to the committee of the whole this evening. Can I have a second, please?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Thank you. Item 3.03. We have a lot of items here. 'Tis the season to hire people. And I did talk to Laura last week. We had, I think, 28 hires out of 30 openings. So she's doing a really good job of getting this figured out before the school year is over. So nice job, Laura. Item 3.03, Personnel Committee Report. This will be at the end of the month, beginning with Asbury. We have a recommendation for a kindergarten teacher, temporary professional contract. Recommendation for a kindergarten teacher, temporary professional contract. Bell Valley, we have resignation of assistant group supervisor. Recommendation for a special education teacher, emotional support, temporary professional contract. We have a kindergarten teacher, professional contract, special education teacher, emotional support. We have a change of status of a child development assistant group supervisor to educational assistant. Moving on to Chestnut Hill, we have a recommendation for a music teacher, temporary professional contract. Grandview, recommendations for a kindergarten teacher, temporary professional contract. Teacher grade 3 professional contract. Grade 2 teacher, temporary professional contract. Grade 2 teacher, temporary professional contract. Educational assistant office. And we have a change of status, Title I educational assistant to educational assistant. J.S. Wilson, we have a recommendation for an English teacher, grade 7, temporary professional contract. English teacher, grade 8, professional contract. Walnut Creek, recommendation for a business/computer science teacher, professional contract. Recommendation for a family and consumer science teacher, temporary professional contract. Moving on to Westlake, we have a resignation of a child development assistant group supervisor. Ridgefield/Sarah Reed, we have a recommendation for a special ed teacher, emotional support professional contract. We have a change of status for a special education teacher, emotional support, temporary professional contract. McDowell Intermediate, we have a resignation of a school nurse, resignation of a staff nurse. We have a recommendation for a special education teacher, learning support, temporary professional contract. Special education teacher, learning support professional contract, and a math teacher, temporary professional contract. McDowell, we have a resignation of an English/language arts teacher. Millcreek Education Center, we have a retirement and maintenance. We have a recommendation for first student employee activity, 4/27/22 through 6/6/23. 2023-24 marching band supplements. 2023-2024 fall athletic supplements, 2023-2024 department chairs, 2023-24 child development substitutes, 2023-24 board approved volunteers, and we have 2023-24 substitute custodial. Make a motion that we approve 3.03 and move that to the board meeting at the end of the month. Can I have a second, please?
Second.
Any discussion?
Jason, I have some questions. Well, Kim, you're on the committee, so
Well,
you go first.
I'll ask my question. I see some of these are due to change in status, that I would just want to clarify that the interventionists who were being paid out of ESSER's funds are now being paid through the structural budget, and so they no longer have rights to the jobs they held previously, and we're hiring replacements for those positions. Is that correct?
That's correct, yeah.
Okay. Thanks.
So I know I ask this question virtually every time and I still don't have a good answer for it. We have supplementals for coaches and we are paying these supplementals, not the contracted price or stipend that is listed in the contract. And I will use the assistants for football. how many coaches are we technically funding? Because I add up all the coaches' contracts and I divide it by the number that we're supposed to pay the assistant varsity coach. I don't come up with a whole number. So how do we land on these numbers? Because I know typically we take one assistant coach and we divide it by 3 and we say this amount equals the stipend for one coach. But I don't have a whole number here. So how do we get to this point?
I can answer. I can answer that. Give me 1 second. I'm opening it up.
While you're looking that up, Mr. O'Toole, on this Personnel Committee report, it's, this is for Laura. It is titled June 12th, 2023. That should say June 26th, 2023, just as a note of clarification.
Okay, so I'm gonna use the same example you had for football. Budget includes 1 varsity coach, 4 varsity assistants, 1 varsity aide, 1 JV head coach, 1 JV assistant, 1 JV aide, 1 9th grade head coach, and 1 9th grade assistant coach. I have it broken down so we know exactly what positions tie back exactly to the MEA contract, how many of those positions to give us a total dollar value, which can be divided up. However, in terms of what the actual payment will be to the individual employees. So from a budget perspective, using football for next year, 9 through 12,
So do
Total
some of the
budget of-
JV values pay for varsity values?
I'm just giving you the grand total.
Okay,
and
so
how
that's
they're
a grand
dividing
total,
that
but
up.
what I'm saying is at some point, we need to have a line item, if you're asking us to approve stipends, to say, this is what the total stipend for varsity football should be, and this is how we're going to break it down. So we know that we're approving the right dollar number and the right number of people. And I would stress that we seriously need to get this in alignment with our counterparts with the MEA and really clean this contractual language up. Because this is, I feel that we're opening ourselves up to challenge here every time we approve someone at a rate that's not listed in the contract.
Yeah, I think there's an opportunity certainly for administration to partner with 2 groups of individuals, or athletic director and MEA's leadership, to make sure that we are strengthening sort of the alignment with regards to making sure that the stipends that we're offering doesn't put us in any place that can be legally challenging. So there's a need for continued conversations.
And I know that this is continued past practice, so I'm not as worried about continued past practice, but what I would like to see is I would like to see that this is the value of this stipend for this sport, that, you know, we're approving 8 people because this is the total it's supposed to be. That would be my ask in lieu of us getting to a place where we all know we need to be as a group, but at least let's know that we're approving the right dollar number.
Mr. Dean, I've got more of a comment than a question. I'd just like to thank Laura, the HR department, and all the interviewing team. I know in Dr. Roberts' weekly update that the openings were 100% full, right? So we've hired 100% of our openings heading into the fall. So when you have 100% hiring of new teachers by June the 12th, pretty have a good feeling that you probably got the cream of the crop out there. So you got the best of the best. So congratulations to Laura, the HR and the interview team administration for filling all those open seats to get them ready for our school year coming up in the fall.
Thank you, President Mitchell. And certainly also want to add, one of the things that we anticipated based on the sort of trend data is the fact that, we have these resignations that will pop up every once in a while at this time of the year. And so even though we are seeing resignations because individuals are either being promoted or they're moving on to other roles, just given the traction we've gotten from the HR team, we have the utmost confidence that at the beginning of the year, school year 23-24, we will have a certified teacher standing in front of all of our students. So that's where we are.
Great. Thanks, Mr. Dean.
Thank you. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
I'm sorry.
Thank you. Item 3.05, ESS Northeast LLC addendum. This is our substitute rate for next year of $130 for a full day, $65 for a half day. I'd like to make a motion that we move 3.05 to the meeting at the end of the month. Can I have a second, please?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Thank you. 4.01, we have no information.
You skipped
3.04.
I jumped over 3.04. All that talking about jobs. 3.04 Superintendent of Schools job description. I'd like to make a motion that we approve 3.04. Can I have a second, please?
Second.
Discussion.
I just had one quick comment on, if you look under the qualifications on number 1, I think it should say totaling at least 10 years instead of totally 10 years. Yeah,
And is there an approval and?
To
in
With that
anticipation of
amendment?
Correction amendment, yes.
To move
A
to the-
motion to amend that?
Make a motion that we amend item 1 under the qualifications from totally to total at least 10 years. Can I have a second, please?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Item 3.04 with the amendment. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Thank you. Already did 3.05 out of order. 5.01 questions. Any questions from the public in person or on Zoom? And as a reminder, identify the agenda item that you're asking a question about.
See no hands raised online.
Okay, 6.01 adjournment. I'd like to make a motion that we adjourn the Personnel and Policy Committee meeting. Can I have a second, please?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Thank you, President Winchell.
Thank you, Mr. Dean. Next committee is instruction and student services, Mrs. Winchell.
Thank you. Item 1.01, roll call. Mrs. Sitter, would you please?
Yes, Ms. Philbeck,
yes, here.
Ms. Newsham,
Here.
Mrs. Winchell.
Here.
Thank you.
Item 1.02, I'd like to make a motion to approve the agenda. May I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Item 2.01, I'd like to make a motion to approve the Instruction and Student Services Committee meeting minutes from May 8th. May I have a second? Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, grab a cup of coffee. I have 17 action items this evening. If you don't mind, I would like to start with the only item that is going to the Committee of the Whole meeting this evening, which is item 3.10. So if we could start with 3.10, please, which is the J.S. Wilson School Improvement Plan presentation. Thank you, Dr. Kavanaugh, for starting us out.
Thank you. I appreciate the board allowing us to move this forward this evening to the COW. The plan itself does not have to be submitted until August, but the earliest possible submission is June. We want to get it into PDE as soon as possible. That way, if they do have any changes that they would recommend, we could get it back. So at this point, the team has reviewed the plan. Dr. Roberts has reviewed the plan. Because of this school improvement plan, the IU had to sign off on the plan, and the IU has already signed off on the plan. And I'll conclude my presentation by sharing their thoughts at the end. So. No, working, Patrick. Okay, technical difficulties. So school improvement plan for J.S. Wilson. So how did we get here? So a few months ago, I brought this information forward to the school board to share what landed us. If you look at all the information up there, two things got us put on school improvement at J.S. Wilson, and this was our MLL population. The first one is the achievement, math and ELA combined. We had to be at or below the 28.8% proficient or advanced. J.S. Wilson was at 28.3. So 0.5% we came up short. And then the other one on here is the English language proficiency test. It's at 10.4 and J.S. Wilson was at 6.25. So those are the two things that got us originally put on the plan. When you're looking at the plan itself, though, you're looking at the whole system at J.S. Wilson, not just one group, to see if there's any other improvements that could help us. So there's 3 phases to the plan. In each phase, we had a meeting with the IU, which was a virtual meeting. Then our team would sit down and discuss. Then we'd invite the IU in to go through that phase of the plan with us. So you have to put together a team, complete a needs assessment, and then develop some action steps to try to correct the concerns that do develop. So our steering committee is made up of the building principal, Mr. Costello, Abigail Nelson, our interventionist, and Kathy Doyle, MLL teacher. That's what I would call the core members of our team, because they are responsible for working with me to pull and organize all of the data that went into this plan. Besides that, we also needed to have a teacher. So we had Erica Lanzillo, a parent, Jessica Samuel, and then a community member. For our community member, I'd like to thank Regina Kokolin. Regina is a former MLL teacher here in the Millcreek Township School District, who now teaches at both Gannon and Mercyhurst University, who was kind enough to donate her time to us and help us develop our plan. And then we had support from the IU, which was Yvonne Teed and Danette Porter. And like I said, they met with us 3 times virtually and 3 times face-to-face to help walk us through this plan. So they were a great deal of help. Mr. Murnock, Dr. Roberts, and myself. So when you look at the needs assessment, you're looking at the PA Future Ready Index. This is where we're pulling all the data from. You're looking at academics, so you're looking at PSSA scores, and you're looking at whether we are meeting the achievement, and we're also showing the proper amount of growth. Related academics, such as career readiness, which you're going to hear more about later tonight in our Naviance program. So career readiness is something we look at. And then the equity considerations is looking at all of the various subgroups to make sure that not only is the building as a whole making gain, but each of our subgroups are making the appropriate amount of gain. And then the PA essential practices. So when you're looking at this and developing the needs assessment, you're looking at improving instruction, empowering leadership, student-centered, which is where we need to improve a little bit, support systems, and that'll become one of the things that you'll see in the plan, and then quality PD for all. So strengths and challenges. So we looked at all the data across what was on PA Future Ready Index. This is what we kind of focused on. So our curriculum is truly very well aligned to the PA state standards. So we're in good shape there. We use a wide variety of assessments. So we're in good shape there. We have high expectations for all of our students. And we use multiple different forms of professional development for our staff. So those are all good things that the plan indicated as we look through. But a couple of challenges at J.S. Wilson. First one would be, we don't have an evidence-based school-wide positive behavior intervention program, which our other 2 middle schools do. So we'll be working on developing this as part of the plan. And we need more of a multi-tiered system of supports. I'm not saying we don't have academic support, because we do, especially with our interventionists, for both academics and behavior, but we need a more tiered system, and we need to improve upon that. So noticeable observations and patterns. As I mentioned previously, the MLL population data is what originally got us on the plan, but we also noticed both our special ed and economic disadvantaged subgroups didn't get us on the plan yet, but if we continue trending the wrong way, they could get us on another plan. So we want to make sure that what we're doing is helping everybody. And then in addition, I already mentioned the positive behavior support plan that we're going to need to develop. So some highlights of our subgroups. I don't want you to think it's all bad with some of our subgroups. So if you look at the first one, 88% of our ELL students met or exceeded the statewide goal for growth. So achievement was an issue, growth was not. Okay. And then if you look at some of the other data up there, our economically disadvantaged students met or exceeded the statewide goal for growth. So we are very good at the growth. When you're looking at our PVOS data, we show a lot of growth across the board, across all subgroups. It is very positive. We do need to increase our achievement. And a couple other ways just to kind of focus on some career benchmarks and some attendance rates that are very good too. So there are a lot of positives what we're doing with our various subgroups. Couple challenges. 65% of our students with disabilities met or exceeded the interim target for math growth. So that's one group that didn't quite get as high as we'd want to with the growth. Okay. The MLL population did, the economically disadvantaged did, but our students with disabilities did not. So that's a focus area that we're gonna have to make sure we continue to monitor moving forward. And then only 25% of our ED students met the goal for overall performance. So that's achievement. So proficient or advanced numbers. And the last one is kind of interesting because we are moving forward in the right area with both ELA proficiency for our ALL population, but we're not moving quickly enough. So as the rest of the school continues to move higher, this particular group is not moving quickly enough to keep pace with them. So that's something we want to make sure that we monitor. So from there, we had to come up with goal statements. So we basically chose two. So the first one, we have to go from, I told you the magic number 4 was 28.3. Okay, so we need to go for 28.3. We set a goal to get over 30% next year. And then we also said we need to get through phase 1 of the PBIS plan, which will take a full year to establish correctly with guidance from the IU. So those are our 2 measurable goal statements. To tell if we're going to get there, we're going to look for our math and our ELA, and we're going to use our MAT data. So we're going to give the MAT benchmark to start the year. And then after that, we hope to continue to achieve by 5 increased RIP points per quarter. So 5 after the first test, 5 after the second round of tests, and then hopefully that will then lead us to the over 30% when the students take the test, the PSSA test at the end of next year. That is our goal. Action steps. And a couple of these happen to just be coming into play because we're already doing it. So the first bullet under there says maintain current ELL full-time teaching position. When we got originally the data that this was pulled at that point, we did not have a full-time ELL teacher at J.S. Wilson. We had someone, J.S. Wilson was splitting with MIHS. Last year, we finally had a full-time person and we have almost a full-time aide. So that will be much more helpful, I think, in helping this population continue to improve. Continue use of curricular-aligned online and classroom strategies. One of the things you mentioned that you can see under there is implementation of System 44. And that's a phonics-based reading intervention program that focuses on the 44 sounds of the English language. And that's something we implemented last year. And it has leveled readers with scaffolded skills embedded into it. So it's been very helpful. Mrs. Doyle speaks very highly of it. And it is something that we just implemented last year that we'll continue to get better with as we move forward. And then school climate, that's the school-wide positive behavior plan that we're going to look at. And there's different phases you have to go through. So we're going to have to meet with the IU. The IU approves all of this. So step 1 would be getting with their coordinator first. And it'll be under the leadership of the administration at J.S. Wilson and also their admin officer, Kim Chesley, because Kim was a key member of the Westlake team who's been very successful implementing this effectively at Westlake. And then they'll inform all the stakeholders of the plan, do a survey to make sure they're meeting the expectations, and then break this out to the entire student body by the end of next year. They should have fully implemented phase 1 of the plan if all goes well. So that's it for the presentation, but I did want to share with you before I open up for any questions. This was the comments. I thought it was very nice for our team from the IU. So this came directly from Yvonne Teet, who oversaw our plan. It's been an absolute pleasure to working with you and your team throughout this process. Everyone's done a phenomenal job, and I applaud all of you for your hard work and dedication. I'm truly excited to see the impact the plan is going to have. You were able to take concerns, focus them down into manageable steps, and identified by goal setting part of the plan. I think your goal benchmarks look very reasonable and attainable and will have significant impact on the desired outcomes. So that came from Yvonne Teet from the IU before she approved our plan. So I wanted to share that with the school board. Are there any questions about the plan itself?
Great presentation, Dr. Kavanaugh. Thank you so much. Just 2 quick points. Could you remind everyone specifically what the state requires when we have a student come to us in this program, in the English language learner program, and they walk in the door and have not a word of English? When are they required to take these tests that we're talking about?
The math test they take that year, the ELA test once they're here for 1 year. So you're getting students who are coming in with very limited English and then trying to test them in a language that's not their native language. And we do a great job with the teachers, not only the MLL teacher, but our classroom teachers trying to get them ready. But I will say, as you know, it is challenging.
So as the math tests become, there's a lot of reading involved in the math tests. As the math tests incorporate more reading and problem solving. Is the state talking about making any changes to that?
Not to my knowledge. That doesn't mean they're not, but I've not heard any of that. We've asked about translating into their appropriate language, and that's not currently occurring. It's not that they don't, in some cases, they don't know the math yet, but there are many cases where they do know the math. They don't understand what they're reading in a word problem.
In the second question, just quickly, is about personnel in that. You said that we are continuing with a full-time MLL teacher next year. And this past year, we had a part-time aide. Did I hear you say that we are going to have a full-time aide this coming year?
So that's one of the things that we keep strategically planning around. It is a part-time aide this year. It's a 5-hour position per day. So that is one of the things that we've been talking about.
Thank you.
And I just have a question on how they measure growth. Is growth an individual student's growth from year over year? So if they didn't have a prior year assessment, will they be excluded from growth, or is it
No.
cohort?
Cohorts. The PVAS is cohorts. And growth generally is not our issue. I mean, we do very well with growth as a district. It's the achievement piece we really need to get up, but growth of some of the subgroups does need to improve.
And with assessments or assessment strategies, certainly to respond to that question as well in a more granular format, our teachers and leaders are certainly looking at individual student growth and addressing those with the appropriate interventions.
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to move 3.10 forward to the committee of the whole meeting this evening. May I have a second?
Second.
Is there any other discussion related to the presentation or this agenda item?
Just one quick item, if I may, certainly want to commend Dr. Kavanaugh, Mr. Costello, and the team of teachers. Again, this is not due until August, and so in the spirit of continuously overachieving, thank you, Dr. Kavanaugh, Mr. Costello, but this is exciting. You know, as I reviewed the plan and think about the fact that it will target a specific population of students, I can't help but to see how this bodes very well for the entire school. This is certainly a case where, you know, a rising tide lifts all boats, and with such a focus and intervention, I can see other students in the population benefiting in it. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, that moves forward this evening.
Thank you.
Yes. Certainly.